Thank you for listening to the Kyle and Tim podcast, where we have authentic conversations that help cultivate a better understanding of ourselves, our guests, and the world we live in. This podcast is about our guests, getting to know them, their backgrounds, experience, thoughts, and ideas. We really appreciate you listening. Before we introduce our next guest, we'd like to introduce you to a few sponsors that help make this podcast possible. Today's podcast is brought to you by Mountain Mule Transportation, located here in Bozeman, Montana. Mountain Mule is a private SUV and truck service, offering chauffeur services in all of southwest Montana. Whether it's your next skiing, hunting, or fishing trip, early morning or late night trips to and from Bozeman Airport, as well as weddings and private parties. No matter the occasion, Mount Mule will get you there safely and on time. To learn more, visit mountain-mule.com and book today. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the next episode of the Kyle and Tim podcast. Our guest today is Liz Baldwin. Liz, thank you for being here. Kyle, what did we talk about today?
We talked about what it's like to be a grandmother, mom. We talked about your guys' family. Talked about communication with your partners and communication with friends and family. We talked about Liz's life a little bit.
All right. Enjoy, folks. Thank you.
Liz.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on again.
Thank you.
Liz Baldwin, thanks. Welcome back for the third time.
What's your earliest memory, Liz?
You did answer that, right?
I don't remember.
Well, let's hear, and then we'll fact check you.
I might not have listened to them.
Let's fact check.
If you say something different, that means you're a liar.
My sister listened to it and she said, "That's not the way I remember it."
Ah, that's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
You would imagine you'd never remember it the same as someone else.
And I've always told people, I said it could have been a different story any different day.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell a different story.
Yeah.
Depending on your mood or what's going on in your life.
Right.
All the above. The moon phase. The time of year. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I was joking about the moon phase, but what's currently your earliest memory?
I do not know.
You gotta know though.
Well, no, let me ask you something. Do you either of you guys
Well, this is a one-way podcast.
Did either of you ever have a diary? Ever do journaling or write diaries?
Yeah, but we were just talking about this with Bree. Remember? Because her father has
Bria.
Is it Bria?
Bria.
Even though there's no A at the end, it's still Bria.
Yeah.
So you pronounce it. That's interesting. I kind of wondered.
She's got an H.
Yeah,
Bree.
That's Bree. Bree.
Ha.
Okay. She was saying that her dad's kept journals essentially his whole life. Why have you?
No.
Never?
No, but I have a friend who does a lot of journaling, and I always said I'd be afraid to do it because I wouldn't want anybody to read it. She says she does it because she wants people to read it. But I think your idea with the podcast is to sort of immortalize.
This is a video. Yeah, this is essentially a journal of sorts.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know sometimes when I used to unload the corn wagons, I would write stuff down because it would take a while. It would take like 20 minutes. You're just kind of sitting there, and I would try to write down because you have a lot of thoughts and go back and read it. I'm like, oh, what was I thinking?
Yeah, but you were probably trying to think through things.
I'm sure whatever was going on and whatever.
I never really journaled per se until maybe the last 5 to 7 years. I'm not consistent. I don't like to do it every day. Sometimes I don't even do it every week. I would say I definitely do it every month now. There's probably not a month that I've missed, but like it might just be like a couple of days in that month. So I'm pretty inconsistent about it. But yeah, I have notebooks of stuff that from probably the last 10 years. I wouldn't say that's necessarily journaling. Like they're just kind of random thoughts.
It could be more introspective.
Yeah, or it was like I was like trying to work out. I remember specifically I was trying to like work out my problems, and I would write them down,
Mm-hmm.
and I would articulate them I would articulate them on a piece of paper, mostly because I'd get so angry. This was like really at the time that was related to like my issues I was having with my employer. I was a disgruntled employee.
He was triggered, ladies and gentlemen.
And so, yeah, I would get so angry that I couldn't like speak to my boss or my peers about it. And so I would write it down. So then when I did speak with somebody about it, I wasn't irate.
It's a good practice, when you're trying to make decisions or choices or something, to write the down stuff. But I think we take so many more pictures now. We try to remember everything. Before iPhones, you didn't really take all those pictures so much.
I think it's funny, man. I think what people are I think we might be like part of the first generation of people that they might look back at their photos and be like, wait, what? Because I think people are trying to be somebody that they're not in a lot of ways. A lot of people are.
That's a lot of social media. Yeah,
but I would almost argue that sometimes you're so quick to take a picture that you almost forget to experience something. Like, wait, you're like, hey, this is happening right in front of you. You could watch it too and see what it feels like.
Yeah, like people like at concerts and stuff now. Like, I don't take my phone out. Like, I'm like listening to the music because like I'm not gonna go back and listen to it on my phone. I'm there. Like, I'm watching an artist live. Like, I'm not gonna take a video.
Video recorders, like camcorders, were big when my kids were little, and I used to say the same thing. I'm like, you guys are missing it all. You're like behind this lens. Just stop for a minute and look. But
yeah, and I'm not saying there isn't a place for it here and there, but like I'm definitely not going to a concert. Not to say I won't take a photo, but like people will record the entire show basically, and you're like, you're literally missing the show to record this. And then it's going to sound way different. You're not going to have a good time when you're listening to it. You'll be back at your house. Like, you're with the crowd now. So like, enjoy it. It's weird.
You want to know something that was cool though? The current gal I'm dating, on our second date, we'd ever gone out, we went to a concert. So we're at the concert. It's Wyatt Flores, Dierks Bentley. Wyatt Flores is playing. And we're in the rodeo arena and we're dancing. And she's a pretty good dancer, and I've been dancing as well for a while. So we're dancing. There's a professional photographer, and the entire time she took pictures and videoed the entire thing, and then linked up with on Instagram and sent it all to her. So that was sort of the best of both worlds because we experienced the entire dance and then have
somebody else take photos.
Professional level photos and video of it.
That's cool.
So that was cool. Well, also sometimes the funnest thing about doing something is telling your friends about it. Like, God, I can't wait to tell my friends about it. This is so cool. So I get why you take pictures too.
Yeah.
So no, pictures are cool, but when it's what you're having for dinner and stuff, it's a little much.
So what was your earliest memory?
I don't remember.
You got to remember. There's got to be something you remember as a kid, or like a kind of a really vague memory of like.
But I remember. I mean, speaking of pictures, I look at pictures of when I was little, and I sort of feel like I remember when I was maybe 3 or 4, standing next to the little table that I now have in my house. But I've seen the picture so many times, doing a little tea party thing. But
yeah, your brain might have tricked you into like thinking your picture was the memory.
My oldest brother taking me to the circus or something like that.
In New York City?
York City, yeah. Ringling Brothers, Madison Square Garden.
That would have been really cool.
It was really cool.
It was the real deal then. Cool.
Yep.
I have one question I've been wanting to ask you for a while. I've been saving this. Okay. Do you know where the name for the dog Groucho came from?
I think Groucho was already named.
When you guys got him?
Yeah.
Wow, what a disappointing answer.
Sorry.
Because did you get him with that, or he had him already?
I don't remember. No, he didn't have him already.
Yeah.
I don't remember where we got Groucho, but we got most of the dogs from the pound or the paper or something.
Do you want a water or beer or
No, I'm
seltzer,
good.
anything?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. So nothing to Groucho's name.
No, I don't think so. But I think Groucho bit somebody, and that he was no longer ours.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, I think he.
I remember when Groucho died.
Oh, okay. I'll take that back.
We had him for a long time.
We must have given him a second chance.
Yeah. No, I remember when he died, but we had him for a long time.
When did he die?
I don't know. I was a young kid, but I just remember,
Hmm.
like specifically.
Okay.
Katie would probably remember this.
Okay.
We'll ask her tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. You were about to say something.
Yeah. What do you like about being a grandma?
That's a great question.
I don't know. It just makes me proud. Showing you the pictures.
Mhm.
It's amazing to just like, this is of me. It's like, it's pretty cool.
It's your fault.
No, it's not my fault. It's awesome to watch them grow up and just to see my own kids raising their own kids and being able to be a part of it. And, you get the special privilege of being a grandmother. Sometimes they think you're special.
The grandkids too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're in a good mood.
Right.
You probably just don't enjoy kids as much because you have more stress to life. There's not as much stress to life when you're a grandparent, generally speaking.
Yeah, you're always, you don't have to.
And to worry as much about a lot of things.
Well, you still worry about it.
What do you worry about?
You never want anybody to be upset, and you don't want bad things to happen.
So like
Ever.
I gotcha. I'm on your team on that side.
You never want anybody
But
sad.
like what things worry you?
Just anything, it's a scary world. Anything can happen. I remember Timmy used to say he would get worried every time I'd call him. He'd see my name on the caller ID and he'd go, uh-oh, what happened?
You were worried about her.
Yeah, it's like PTSD. If bad things have happened in your life and then you're like, oh, did something happen with one of my siblings? Is something going on with my mother?
Like, why the fuck is my mom calling me?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's a terrible thing to think. But I guess I don't think that as much. But it's like
you're worried about like a farming accident or something.
Sure, yeah,
any kind of accident. Yeah.
Like say you pick up your phone and you have like a missed call from both your brothers and your parents. Like, wouldn't you kind of be like,
yeah, I would.
Fuck, what's going on? So it was sort of like that.
Like if the timing, they were like back to back to back or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would.
I remember like this worried me, and it was when Matt had his accident.
Yeah, a bunch of people called you.
There was like missed call from Will once or twice, a missed call from Matt's brother once or twice. Then I think like Matt's other brother, Matt's dad, there's a bunch of them. And I was just like, my phone was on silent, or, it was the time difference, and it happened late at night there, but I was like, fuck. Like, you just know something's, so that's what I would be saying when I'd be worried. But I don't have a worry if she's just calling me now, but at one point I probably did.
Mm-hmm. Especially if the call comes late at night. David tends to butt dial me at like 4:00 in the morning. I'm like, oh shit. He doesn't, and then he doesn't, and then he doesn't answer. You call him back, and he's like, or he doesn't answer or something.
Hey, we gotta get that fixed, David.
David.
How's
your Thanksgiving, David?
What's the hardest part about being a grandmother?
The hardest part? I don't know. You always want to make sure you're being a good example, or being there enough, helping, give them the opportunities you want them to have.
Mm-hmm.
There's distance.
With you being in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Does that bother you?
It doesn't bother me, but I mean, it's, I can spend 10 days with them now, and it's like, okay, I got to take a nap, or, can I just like go to the grocery store for a little bit,
You want to get away.
Yeah. But at the same time, it'd be, you think, geez, it's like Tim's aunt was right up the hill, and could always always be there. Should I be like right up the hill or something like that? But they're fine.
Yeah.
So you're not going to buy a place in Bozeman?
It's not in the. But Dusty and Rich were talking about a family complex. I didn't know if I was included in this family complex, but
Family complex makes it sound like a mental disease.
Well, I mean, you guys definitely have that going on.
Family complex.
You don't have to buy anything to have that going on.
That's a term.
I think we did really well at Thanksgiving.
The term.
I'm just messing around.
The term complex is something that Freud popularized.
Like
Complex?
No, Carl Jung, either Jung or Freud, one of them popularized the term complex.
Hmm.
I think it was Jung. You have a complex.
I think
Inferiority
you
complex.
guys should have a family compound.
Oh, maybe that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, that makes it sound like a prison.
It probably would be.
What were they talking about?
Having a lot of land, and Dusty was going to run the ranch part of it, and Rich was going to build it or something.
Build some houses on it?
I'm not sure how that was. I'm not sure exactly what the blueprint looked like.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of logistics to sort out, because if it was a lot of land, it'd probably need to be in the middle of nowhere, and someone would need to be there.
But speaking of the Snake River, I worked on a ranch called the Snake River Ranch, right outside of Jackson Hole.
When was that?
Yeah, when was that?
That was in 1976.
Oh, wow.
Sally and Dan got married in Driggs, Idaho in 1976. I was about to say 1776, but it was that 200-year thing. Anyway, and my oldest brother, who was a teacher at the time, had a student who owned this ranch called Snake River Ranch. And her older sister was basically running the ranch. I guess it was a summer kind of thing. Anyway, they were having a lot of disease running through the cattle, and they were trying to get to the cattle quickly so they could do autopsies. So they needed people to ride. So I said, "Oh, I'll do that."
How long were you there?
Was there a month or two?
Okay.
It was a lot of fun.
Terry's the oldest?
Yes. Yes, just turned 81.
Oh, no way. That's wild. When was his birthday?
November 20th.
Oh. Happy late birthday to Terry. Belated birthday.
Shout out to Terry.
So you were riding horses? Getting
Riding
all that?
horses. It was lots of fun.
That sounds great.
What did they figure out what was killing all the calves?
Not that I know of. And for all I know, that wasn't really the reason I was there. But
what were you there for?
I don't know, but I was riding every day. It was lots of fun.
All right.
That was near Jackson Hole?
Near Jackson Hole. Right? It was right outside Jackson Hole.
I don't recall any of this.
You weren't there.
I know, but I'm saying, do you I never hearing of this.
Oh.
Yeah. So you never had a desire to move to the West after seeing all the mountains out here?
Mountains. No.
I feel like they're so compelling when you see the West for the first time. You just want to move here. At least that was my experience.
So interesting that
I never liked
so
skiing.
many people call it the West, Yeah. And for me, coming from Southern California, that's the West.
What do you call it? It's what do you call it from California? What do you call it?
Yeah, it's like an interesting thing, right? Because some people will call it the Pacific Northwest. You're like, well, that's like Seattle and Portland. But also all right, that makes sense too. And so people, will say even from, let's just say they're from Ohio or whatever, well, coming out west. It is out west from Ohio. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know what
it's just I don't know. It's fine. People want to call it that. It's just
it's like in
it's
New
not
York.
the West Coast, right? But it is westerly.
It's like people, when you tell them you're from New York, everybody thinks immediately New York City.
Right.
And if you say upstate, the people in Plattsburgh are like, we're the ones upstate, or Buffalo, or something.
Everyone's got a bone to pick, especially in New York.
This is true.
Yeah. I mean, I'd never picked the bone. I just, I've observed people from all over the country say, oh, yeah, I wanted to move out west, or, and that means different things to different people. because Montana's like, it's like, what? It's like, I would say Montana's more than 2/3 of the way to the west of the U.S.
There's people who live in Bozeman, depending on who they're talking to in Montana, that don't tell people they're from Bozeman. Because Bozeman is essentially the New York City of New York.
Mm-hmm.
So people say, oh, I'm from Three Forks or Manhattan or wherever.
I like Three Forks.
Even if they're not from there.
Yeah. I was talking to a woman who said that she worked for some company or something. And she said, yeah, depending on who we're talking to, it was like agriculture. She said that when people asked her where she's from or where she lives, she's like, I say Three Forks or something.
You know how
Because
the photos on your phone tell you where you are?
Mm-hmm.
The ones at Katie and Rich's don't say Bozeman.
Oh, what do
They say like King Park or something. I was going to ask them if they'd even ever heard of such a place.
I'm pretty sure King Park is like, if you go across Gooch Hill, that's that trailer park.
Oh, there you go. Sounds about right. Anyway.
It's interesting because I don't know what is Bozeman, but I think like Gateway is a Bozeman address. Because Gateway is there's stuff in Big Sky that's Gateway. That'll say Gallatin Gateway. Mm-hmm. I don't know where that line is either.
Yeah, what's up with your billboard?
Oh, it was
why is it not up?
Well, it was up for a month, and then the other one isn't until December 23rd.
David and I were looking for it.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was only for a month.
Amy had to straighten us out before we drove all the way up to Big Sky looking for it.
That would have been a long drive. Yeah. Okay, so if that's what being a grandmother's like, what about being a mother? What did you learn from being a mother?
What did I learn?
Yeah. What surprised you?
Surprised me. What really scares me is the stories David tells me about and listening to the Matt's podcast and things like that. I'm like, where was I? It was a lot of responsibility.
You mean just all the debauchery?
Of Matt's?
No, just like what everyone's done?
No, David will tell me that David says, even listening to his podcast, I'm like, David, no, that's not what happened. I did not send you to school. It was time for you to go to school. Anyway.
Everybody's got
a different idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can be in the same room and people have two different stories.
But, it's a lot, I guess, sometimes you want your children to be what you think they're supposed to be, and you've got to try to not do that. Let them be who they are. There's this sort of social, whether they're supposed to go to the best school or have the best clothes or whatever. But I don't know. But I do remember, immediately when my first child was put in my arms, I probably said this in the last podcast, that I was going to homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that from the moment that he was born, which is totally, off.
You hadn't thought about it before?
No.
It wasn't premeditated?
Never, no. But, just completely not what you're supposed to do, not the standard, But anyway, it's, I just figured, you just do the best you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I would imagine, it's apparent, like, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to, like, do things the right way or whatever, what seems right. And I don't know, maybe it's 50% of the stuff that you think is right ends up being wrong, and so it's like, I think parents probably put a lot of pressure on themselves, and it's unnecessary.
But I think at the end of the day, all you really want is everybody to be happy. And I don't mean like having a good time, blah, blah, blah. But you want people to be happy. And if you aren't taught, like I was always afraid the kids would get into drugs, have some kind of drugs, and you're not going to be happy. You're not going to, and so, or just get involved with the wrong people. And then you're not going to be happy, or just, going down the wrong road, whatever it is, you're just trying to, guide them so that ultimately you're going to be happy.
Yeah. And that's interesting, right? Because the time horizon matters, right? Because like, if you want to do what makes you happy today, you might be a piece of shit in 5 years. Right. And if you do, if you keep on doing everything that you want, that you want to do today, and you don't put the work in, or you don't learn something new, and you don't try hard things and develop yourself, then you're being happy today, but you're suffering for tomorrow. So there's kind of a balance there of like, well, you still got to put the work in.
Right. But that's, I mean, I think that's what, I guess in hindsight, you want, just try to guide them in the right direction so that they ultimately can be happy. But I do know, getting drugs and being involved with the wrong people was one of my biggest concerns.
Kyle, you just said that you parents probably put too much pressure on themselves to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always thought you could probably do something and it'd be the perfect formula for one kid, and then the next kid needs the exact opposite. And how do you even know that?
Well, that's also true with twins.
Yeah, or just anyone.
Chris and Sam, Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
Or like brothers, like me and David, or sisters, Katie and Becky, or you and your brothers. So maybe your parents do something that's perfect for you and exactly what you need to excel in life, and then your brother is the exact opposite of what he needs. And how do you, there's no formula for that because everyone's unique. So
absolutely,
you really try your best and just sort of like got to leave a lot of it up to like them. You can sort of give them guidelines like, hey, it's this is wise, this has been wise in my experience to do A, B, and C, but you got to figure out what works for you.
It's like Katie or Becky today. We've got these two granddaughters that are a month apart, a year and a half each. And Becky looks at them and goes, look at their clothes. It pretty well describes the difference in me and Katie. So there's the two sisters, the mothers.
And they're wearing very different clothes.
They're two children, which are almost the exact same age, and they're just sort of a picture of the difference. It really wasn't that apparent, but
Dusty even said,
was that like a conscious? Man, that would be fucking so tiring. I can barely do it I can't even do it for myself. So, that was that like something that you were aware of, when you had kids, like that you have to treat all of them individually, or did you just like? Because that would but I hear what you guys are saying, but that would wear me out.
Well, there's nothing you can do though. Like you don't even know. They're still kids, so you don't even know. Like the fruits of the way you treated them might not show up for 20 years later.
But they all react to different. You're all in a family. You're all in the same situation, and you're all reacting and responding in different ways. And so one of them thinks it's funny, and the other one is, crying. And
how about
you're not. It's like,
how about the hibachi experience last night?
What?
We had hibachi,
like a barbecue.
Well, like
we went
Japanese,
to wasabi.
Like wasabi.
Oh, okay.
Hibachi when they cook on the grill in front.
Yeah.
And some, like, for the most part, all three of the young children were pretty terrified of the fire coming off of it. But like there were different reactions from each of them for sure, which was just funny to see. And Rowdy was not a fan at all.
No.
But I was like, man, I feel you, Rowdy. Like, just leave me alone and let me eat my dinner. I don't want to like play all these games. Just trying to have a meal and get through the evening. I don't know, this social pressure. I gotta catch things in my mouth and come on, leave me alone.
But it's weird. It's like, I mean, I don't know if you follow like the royal family at all, and those little kids. They're young little kids, and they always have all these, these clothes on, and all. They're all having to act all really proper, and it's like, it's like, how come my kids couldn't do that? It's like, how do they make them do that? How do they get them to be such perfect little?
Yeah, but maybe they're perfect for that. They're like picture perfect, but maybe they're a fucking mess otherwise.
But you should see my grandkids in the Santa. They're supposed to be picture perfect, in their little Christmas costumes. They're all crying.
Yeah, but I would argue when you grow up with a royal family, then there's expectations and things modeled to you that you get to a certain age and you just do that because that's what you know. You just kind of like that's.
But as a parent, you can get stuck in that thinking that you should model that and make your kids be that. You know, it's like keeping up with the Joneses, whatever, you know, and you should have all the proper clothes and all the proper.
I mean, that's an interesting idea. Like, because I noticed this years ago, just by happenstance, but it's probably 7 or 8 years ago, right around this time, the holidays, there were all these Christmas cards that were being sent to my house. And I lived with another couple, and so all their Christmas friends, Christmas family members, Christmas cards were getting sent to their house. And oh, you know, so who's that? You know, so we're sharing, and you know, you'd see somebody's Christmas card, right? And their family looks perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Their family looks perfect. Needless to say, the dad is literally a drug addict and has checked himself into rehab like 3 or 4 times. The mom is basically the exact same as him. She's just not going to rehab. And then the kids are the kids, right? Like but the kids are not doing well in school. They're a mess because they're not being taken care of, right? But their Christmas card looks perfect.
Yeah.
And so I think there's, you know, a lot to be said for, you know, trying to model people you don't even know.
Absolutely.
You know? Or trying to keep up with the Joneses. You know, there's plenty of people that drive nice cars and live in nice houses that can't actually afford them, right?
Yeah.
That they're on, you know, $200,000 in credit card debt or something.
No, that's 100%.
But yeah, I would. Okay, so but what was your question?
What was what did being a mother? What did you learn from being a mother?
And so you said
45
basically,
minutes ago.
You know, I guess try to treat your kids
I mean,
in a way so that they'll be happy long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be responsible. You know, I think we should all try to make the world a better place. And hopefully, you know, if you're going to bring kids into it, they're going to contribute in a positive way. And so you try to steer them in ways that'll happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, some people may think that means you've got a really great job and you graduated from Harvard and Yale and you make millions of dollars, and other people might be, well, but you're happy, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe it just means that you're just happy. You have enough to provide for yourself and your family, and you're just happy.
Mm-hmm.
Content.
Sure.
But, you know, it's funny. I hear people talk about how much work it is to like a lot of times have a relationship, you know, just get
with
along.
Their partner.
Yeah. And I never really felt that way. I mean, you argue and you work things out, but I never felt like it was a big battle all the time or a big chore. Or that
Why do you think that
difficult.
was?
I don't know.
Maybe you were fortunate enough to be with the right partner.
That was very helpful.
Probably a big part. Would you imagine if you're trying to make something work with someone that it's not going to work with?
I think sometimes I can tend to
guilty of that.
let go a lot easier than a lot of people. Just let it go.
Well,
it's not worth fighting over.
When you and Bill did get into an argument, like, what was that like? Was he pretty reasonable, or was he?
Well, he never had a temper. I don't think either of us really have a bad temper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get frustrated, you get tired, things don't work, things break. You know, those kinds of things. Yeah,
you're just like frustrated with what just happened.
And you do have a lot of kids, and somebody's crying, and you're trying to do something, and you know, but we would just you just work through it, you know, and I guess that's just maybe the farmer mentality. You just have to keep working. And, you know, the frustrations of, you know, it's so frustrating. Your business depends on getting the hay in, and you've done all the right things, and you've gone out and you've mowed it, and it's sitting there, and then it gets rained on. And I used to say, well, we have to stick by, we made a decision to mow it at this time.
Yeah.
We thought for sure we were going to get it in, and we didn't. We just have to move on, you know. And
it's nobody's fault.
Right.
I got a different question now. Like,
That's
were you guys were you guys watching the weather before you were cutting? You'd be like watch the next handful of days out.
I do remember one of the,
It should be hard to watch the weather back
is
then.
a very cool thing. But we did have a little weather radio. We did have a weather radio.
The NOAA weather radio.
The NOAA weather radio. And, farmers, there's so many really cool things, sayings. Like I'm sure you've heard Pink Sky at Night, Sailor's Delight.
Uh-huh.
And I remember one of the things when I was homeschooling the kids, one of my favorite things was I had this old time book. It was, for fifth graders and sixth graders or something, all these weather signs of weather. And I was this, the leaves blowing, showing the back of the leaves. It's going to rain.
That's what I'd always heard, like the back of the leaves. If you could really see them, like the oak trees and the big trees, like something was coming fast because they were totally turning over. Which all that really means is the wind, but
it's the direction of the wind. The wind is coming from a certain direction. We'd listen to baseball games, and if the Chicago Cubs were getting rained out, we were not going to mow hay.
Like the next day or like that?
Because it was coming. It would hit us in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, okay. So the next day or the day after, yeah.
Yeah. Just there's signs, and then people say that trichny and whatnot.
They say what?
Trichny, your knee swells up or whatnot. But I don't know if I told you guys, the old guy that used to work there, Ike, he just had a sense, and he could just sit there and he would know. He would say, "Don't mow." You'd be, "You're crazy.
Have another beer."
Yeah, right.
We might have talked about this, but then you would drive down the street and one of the neighbors would be mowing hay, and then you think, "Shit, should I be mowing hay?" And then you're kind of like, "Oh, man, if I don't, and they get all their hay in, and I sit here like an idiot for 4 days with my hands in my pockets, and then I mow it in a week later, and it all gets rained on."
But it also depends. I mean, some guys would mow everything down. They would mow their entire farm down.
Not just that what they could pick up in a day or two.
And if they picked the wrong day,
fuck.
But like when I first started,
you wouldn't do that.
Well, that's why.
Like if you can't pick it up in a couple of days, like or even a day, like why would you mow more than you can pick up?
That's why some people shouldn't gamble. They can't help it. They love the rush. Like imagine I get it, I win everything, I get all this hay in, I'll look like a genius. They're probably like, it's worth the risk. I'm gonna get this right 1 out of 10 times, and I'm gonna feel like a hero.
Okay, so let's go back to your arguments with Bill, because that's how it started. So, you guys both didn't have a temper. You're kind of cool-headed.
I mean, I don't think we really ever I shouldn't say we just didn't really argue much.
Yeah. So you guys had a good
definitely clearly get frustrated and upset about things. But again, we weren't at each other as much as struggling together.
That's right. Okay. So you were like partners hand in hand of like working together. Yeah. There's probably something to that too. Also, I would imagine that if you think about that in a different sense, like if you don't work with your husband or your wife, there's almost like a misunderstanding. In what I mean by that is, or there could be a misunderstanding of like, you don't know who that person's day was because you weren't there. Yeah. But if you're working together side by side, you know how their day was.
Right.
You know, like you're watching them, and so there's communication happening when there's no talking going on. Right? You can watch them. You can look at their body language. Where somebody's like, "Oh, well, they were gone for 8 hours, 10 hours of the day, and they come home." You don't really know how things are going with them on that day.
Just like you saying you're a disgruntled employee. And I could say, how can that be a problem? How can you have that kind of a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know.
I have no idea what your job entails.
Right.
Or what that kind of person was. So if your spouse is coming home from a job like that and the other spouse is like, you can't really relate to it. You can't really, I guess, sympathize with it as much as you maybe should, or really help them because you don't know that experience.
That's right.
You don't have a similar experience to help.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think I didn't come with a lot of opinions on how to farm. I didn't know how to farm. He was teaching me how to farm.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't, you don't say, don't do that. That's, because where I came from, we would do, oh, thank you.
No, I'm good, thanks.
We would do, so maybe that's all why we didn't really. But I mean, we genuinely, frustration was the main thing. But there wasn't a lot of, financial stress. We were certainly not getting rich, but we were certainly able to do what we had to do. And so there wasn't those kinds of stresses. I think money and stuff like that is what drives a real wedge between a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't, I don't know, what are all the stressors? Moving, changing jobs, having kids.
It's funny when you have to ask, what is it things usually stress people out these days? The hell are they bitching about all the time? Somebody got that list.
The retired life.
It's like when I used to coach Timmy in Little League with this woman, and we would always win. We were like
the Donald Trump of Little League. There was so much winning. We were just tired of winning after a while.
No, but I'd you like trying to tell the kids, oh, it's just a game. And she'd look at me and she'd go, that's just a game. It was a lot more fun when you win.
It is. I would agree with that.
We were having a lot of fun.
Right. It's way better than when you win.
But, oh, sorry.
Don't be sorry. Just, there you go.
Where'd this come from? Well, nice.
Craigslist.
Yeah, it's got some character, doesn't it?
Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Got character.
Yeah.
That happened this year. Every year that I played on the men's baseball team for the last 5 years, and we've won the championship every year until last year. Like, yeah, I guess we needed to feel this just to see if we could win, if we could lose as good as we win. I was like, I'm good with it. Like, I'm happy. I still had fun. Hope everyone else feels like that.
Yeah.
Some guys were pretty upset, but I was like, anyway.
Well, you hear that in professional sports? Absolutely not. If they didn't win, everything was lost.
Mm-hmm.
All you remember is the ones you lost.
I don't know. Pete Alonso's home run against the Milwaukee Brewers in that wild card game. They didn't win the World Series, but that was like, I think about that moment all the time. I went full mental. I went postal.
But literally, some of the, that's what that team, they were not expected to go that far or do some of those comebacks were outstanding, but some of the guys were, but it wasn't.
Because they say that the biggest killer of happiness is expectation. So the Mets, no one expected them to do that well. So they were.
Yeah, but they might have expected themselves to do that well
earlier. But like they got to a certain point in the season, they're like, "This isn't our year," and then they just 180 to everything. I'm just, Did you guys?
But that's a whole nother thing. I want to read the book about the actual player's life because everything. I mean, what I see when I see a ball player, and what is it? What is your life really like with these contracts and all this stuff? It's like the business side of is just. Yeah, I'd like to read the guy's life.
That's why I was telling you. I don't know if I told you about like how there's a Netflix series. It's 3-part series, so it's totally watchable and won't waste your entire life because it's like 3 hours in total. It's a 2004 Red Sox.
No, that's
it's called The Comeback.
Yeah,
it's very cool because they interview all the players like to now, ask them what was going on and everything. And it's just kind of cool to see that, and the fans like New York and Boston fans is like. Like 6-year-old kids that are screaming like Red Sox suck, you guys suck. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, what I was going to say, because you just made me think of it. Do you know where the term someone going postal came from?
I don't.
But you heard like that guy went postal?
Yeah.
Like apparently like postmen used to just like go crazy. And like a few postmen like shot themselves.
Why?
Because they like hated their job so much and like sorting all the mail, and they'd be like, when is this ever going to stop, this mail? It never stops. It's like driving me crazy. There's like articles and stuff written about where the term going postal came from. It's from postmen going crazy because They're like, this is never going to end.
Those Pony Express guys were amazing.
The mail just keeps coming every day, and there's more and more, and I've just got to sort it and deliver it and sort it. It's not
get a
funny.
new job.
Yeah, it's not funny, but like I guess it happened a few times, and then like hasn't happened in a while from what I understand, so that's good. But that's where the term came from.
No, there's I've heard of them dumping all the mail and the.
Speaking of mail, based on this past election, we need to like figure out a way to get rid of all the advertisements in mail.
Can you imagine?
That's all. I'm talking all advertisements. I'm talking Costco. I'm talking, Home Depot. I'm talking
What about
all
the
elections.
Amazon boxes that have to go to an apartment building in any one apartment building, a 30-story.
They could put a box outside and put them all in a box or something. I don't know.
I mean, I was in New York City and the whole sidewalk was just covered with boxes, and they're trying to sort through them. And it's just like,
it's funny. I just think that advertisements got to go, man. It's fucking crazy. Like all I do is throw away all that stuff. Anyway, that's a different postal. I'll go postal.
I don't get nearly as much as I used to.
I was going to ask you back to
coupons.
Back to the kids though. What was the most difficult thing about being a parent?
I think probably just. I mean, again, I could say it was. I would say, like the Little League. I'd take 4 of you to 4 different places and try to have everybody at the same place. And it's funny. When David went to summer camp, so he had to be there at 9 o'clock or whatever in the morning, and he had to have his lunch and he had to whatever. I was like, this is like impossible. I never had to like get you guys ready for school in the morning. I never had to, it's like I never had to prepare you meals and make sure you had shoes on.
So you were
all that stuff. It was like
you were like out of practice for that or something.
It was tough
to get him there on time with all the shit he needed.
Yeah, just to get.
Everyone, all these other parents are veterans. Like we do this all year round. Yeah, summer camp.
They do it. They got a system down.
But
they also weren't milking cows twice a day.
No, but
so you could put those parents out in your barn and they wouldn't know what to do.
I mean, homeschooling's not easy. Doing that,
right.
Just feeling like you're doing the proper thing, the right thing for them, And then I remember one, not convincing myself, but sort of an aha moment. And it was probably more in the barn, but it applies to everything is don't just take the easy way. Don't just, sometimes there's another chore that needs to be done in the barn and you can kind of go, you don't really need to, do what's right. And so it's, it's easy with 4 kids to say, I'm just gonna, I'll skip on that one. But at some point I was just like, no, you can't do that anymore. You gotta do the right, you gotta be responsible and do the right thing or try.
Do you remember what it was specifically about?
I think initially it was something in the barn. It was something, it's like, it would be easy to skip over, but I want to go home. I want to not do that. And it applied, I was able to apply it
to all other things, a bunch of other things.
Yeah. Look at all the lessons you can learn from farming. Sometimes you do all the right things and then your hay gets rained on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like something, Serini was talking about that because he was talking about raising kids. And he said at some point, you just have to realize that there's luck and fate. And you just have to feel like you have to like be grateful that sometimes you're just very lucky. He's like, some of it's so out of your hands. And like, that's sort of like the hay getting rained on.
Mm-hmm.
You did everything right. You checked the weather. You had your machines ready. You got it cut when it needed to be cut. You had enough days to get it dry. You got your baler ready to go. And then the rain just shows up out of nowhere unexpected. Well, shit. That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Then what? But like, that's a great lesson for, you could do everything and you could get lucky and things work out great. Or you could, for some reason, sometimes like not even try and things work out.
Right.
And I feel like there's like
some people feel like they don't have any luck at all too. I feel so bad for some
Well,
people.
that's interesting. Like, I think it's like depends on what you're focusing on, right? Because you could have the exact same day, right? You just clone yourself, right? And so it was like I could have a great day, and my clone, who was with me every moment of every day, like had a terrible day. I think I've been that person. I've been days that I focus on all these things that I dislike, and there's other days where I focus on all the things that I really enjoyed and really appreciated.
Don't you remember we just talked about that with David? Because you were saying like Bozeman in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was saying my argument is like, I feel like both the things are there. The things you don't want to see are all over this town, and the things you love about this town are all over. But depending on what kind of mood you're in and what you're focusing on is going to kind of predict your outcome.
Yeah, well, and there's all these things that are out of your control. So, like, why berate yourself with stuff that's out of your control, right? Like, why make yourself have such a bad day or a bad week on stuff that you literally can't control?
Well, what if
Sometimes you just don't have control is why. If you don't have any control over your own emotions, you can't help it. It's like you just, it's like Kevin has a habit of saying, oh, what do I, like something will happen. I'll say, just relax. He goes, I don't relax. And I'm like, that's not an excuse. Just relax then.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of
what
sense.
I mean, it's like you can't just say, I don't relax and therefore I'm allowed to, be out of control. No, get control. Do relax. Stop.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, I've certainly had my moments where it's just like you can't rein it back in for, whatever.
Right. I guess I'm just, and so fine, right? Like if you have some of those moments and they're rare, that's fine. I guess what I'm getting at is I think we beat ourselves up. Most people beat themselves up about all kinds of things that, they have no control over, right? Little to no control over, or they have other things going on that are so important that they didn't think about the something that was so simple that they could have thought of it well in advance, but they didn't. And so now you're here in the moment and you're like, fuck, I forgot the XYZ. Is it that big of a deal?Maybe, or maybe it's not. And so like, there's no reason to beat yourself up about it because you forgot something, right? It's like, well, yeah, you should have it, but you don't. It's all good. Move on.
I still always try to say this when I'm in my right mind, or at least I think thinking properly when something doesn't work out. I don't know what that affected like 5 years from now or 5 minutes from now, and you'll never know. But like, because this didn't work out, what did that allow to work out? So you can look at it, but I was going to use the example of what if you had a bunch of hay that you were going to bale and it got rained on, and like my mother's like, God damn it. What, like, how could this happen? We did everything right and the hay's getting rained on, and I'm sitting at home and I'm like, what luck? Like, we were going to be unloading hay all night, and now I get to watch the Mets game. I really wanted to watch this because Al Leiter's pitching tonight, and I really wanted to watch him pitch against the San Diego Padres, and it's not raining in California, so like I get to watch this game now. Like, how could I be so lucky? Like, thank God it rained on that hay.
Right.
So like,
well, there's like a Chinese proverb or whatever, and I don't know the whole thing, but it basically goes like, something to the effect of like, there's an older man, and then he has a son that is like a teenage son, and his son breaks his leg, and he goes, all the people in the town are like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about your son. I can't believe you broke his leg. Like that's like such a bad thing. And he goes, yeah, well, we'll see. I think everything will work out just fine. Well, then the draft comes along. There's a war, and now that his son can't go to war because he had a broken leg, and so he didn't get drafted. Right? And it's like, okay, well, cool. That, and then it was like one more thing and one more thing, and so there's all these little things like, well, this terrible thing in the moment, and it led to something that was, good in the future.
Sure.
So,
you see that a lot with, like these. I told you these hurricanes that went through Tennessee, and people's lives are devastated. They quote unquote lost everything. But when you see the goodwill of all the people around you that come to try to help. The description of the people who have lost everything is, but people, it's totally restored their faith in humanity.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm getting a text. You're gonna take over for a second.
Yeah, okay.
It's an
I was
important
gonna ask you one more question about your kids, if you want to answer. So if there's one thing you could like say specifically that you remember or stuck out about, let's start with David. Like since he was little, is there anything that like stuck out about him? You're like, oh, he's like really good about this, or he's really bad about this, or like his personality type. Essentially, is what I'm asking.
Well,
Strength, weakness, weirdness, anything.
You guys grow. I mean, there could be a different thing for every different.
All right, well, I'm just saying,
guess
like one thing like in particular.
Well, let's just say for
And this
the
is just going to like
homeschooling.
determine the rest of his fate. So be careful with what you say.
With David, like for the homeschooling, he was always he was like by 9 o'clock in the morning, he was done. He was very academic. He knew how to read and write right away. It was almost like, I mean, I never taught him. He just knew, but he never wanted to do the work at the barn. But then he wanted to go to school and he wanted to go to college and he wanted to do, which was completely different than the rest of you.
How about Rebecca?
Yeah, she did not.
Well, what about her? There still has to be something that stuck out. Like, you remember how good she was at softball?
She was very good at softball.
She was so like, I literally remember this like it was yesterday, and I'm probably like making the memory up, but literally she's playing center field. This girl hits a one-hop line drive to her. She picks up the ball and throws the girl out at first base. And, like, nobody even knew. Like, nobody was even like, throw it to first. She just like had the ball, realized the girl's halfway to first base, and she's like, yeah, and just on a beeline to first base. Like,
she was
out.
great. Always very sensitive. Loved all the animals. She got picked on probably the most by all of you guys.
Oh, really? I thought that was David for sure.
No, it was always Becky.
What'd you guys pick on Becky?
Sorry, Becky. Katie was my influence. She was teaching me how to treat you.
You guys probably picked on her because she was sensitive. That's why you picked on her.
Possibly. She had a very tough time learning how to read, and I think she felt like she was getting picked on. I don't know.
See, like that, but that's what I remember about Becky. She was like extremely athletic, and I remember her winning the hay bale throwing contest at the fair like every year, and it was boys and girls. And she would throw the hay bale like 4 feet further than most of the boys her age in her age division.
She is tough.
Dusty said that he's scared of her when she's mad. That was pretty funny.
I think it was Dusty asked me yesterday if I'd ever seen the movie Mean Girls. He goes, because those are the two daughters you raised. Thanks.
Was that a public statement he was making, or was that between you and him?
No, that was a public statement. Because we went out target shooting yesterday. David and Dusty and Rich and I went out target shooting.
Cool.
And we were driving home, and Rich called Katie and Dusty called Becky, and neither of them answered the phone. And they were comparing notes. Like, we're not around. Is that why they don't answer their phone? Yeah. It's like, always diss their hubs. Was what they were trying to say.
Don't you remember when we were talking to Bria and she's like, yeah, me and my friend, like, we met these guys and then they like invite us out to dinner later, and we just forgot that they invited us to dinner and didn't go. And me and Kyle are like, would you like to explain yourself? Because it seems to be a common theme upon your gender. Hate to generalize, but
yeah.
Anyway, but no, you're all different. You all had, Becky was great at softball. Katie was great at softball. You were great at baseball. David wasn't really that athletic. He's very good
still
at baseball.
But he's still like pretty, like he's like he can definitely throw and catch and hit.
And he claims that he actually was on the Millbrook football team. And
very, very briefly. Like, I don't think he did it.
Specifically told him I wouldn't buy all that gear.
No, I do remember that.
I think they just gave him gear to be on the team.
Okay, so what about Katie specifically? Do you remember?
She was also good at softball. She could figure out how to fake me right out with the schooling.
What do you mean?
Well, there was like math books in particular have the answers in the back.
Uh-huh.
She figured that out. So all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, you got all of these right? How'd you do that?
Hmm.
It's even smarter. That's the street smarts you need.
Yeah. That shit comes back to bite you, though.
But see, again,
Maybe
mostly,
though, like would it no? Because like that, I would argue that that's how our entire like system that we function in is designed. Like there's ways you can like you
Sure.
can stay in these guidelines, but like we've created that system. Like we created that textbook. We're like, here now you solve this textbook. It's like, okay, oh look, like there's all the answers. Now what can I actually do? Like you have like
Yeah, and so when in systems like that works, right? But like if you don't actually know how to do something and you can't check the answers in the back of the book, like if it doesn't exist.
yeah.
then you Google it.
Well, yeah, but Google's not always right.
But
Right,
like this is what I,
like it's funny, like it's funny you say that, right? Because like I recently took an exam, and like people are like, oh yeah, I use ChatGPT, right? And I'm like, it got the answer wrong several times, and these are all math equations, right? Like it shouldn't be getting math wrong, right?
No, it should.
And so it got the answer wrong, and it's like, well, no, like I know how to do this. It's going to take me some time to figure out this answer. It's like a multi-step answer. It was like, well, you have to figure out this, then this, then this, then this, and then put it together properly, and then there's the answer. Well, so anyway, what I'm getting at is like, it doesn't matter what it is. I think some people try to skip to, the back of the book, and there are things in life where you're going to pay for that.
Oh yeah.
see, but I would still argue like that's true to an extent. But I would say that the person who's going to say, I'm going to find the best way and the most efficient way to do this, and this is like nobody's telling you,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is a rule, this isn't a rule. Like that's gonna be more advantageous. That's the person I'm gonna want on my team.
Sure.
I'm not going to want the person. Sorry, this is the rule. Like I got to do this long math, everything. Like they're gonna be like, all right, I'm done with that. Now what do I need to do? And if it's a real thing, and they're like, oh, with this, I need to learn a skill. Like I think that mindset as an adolescent,
I got you,
is a better mindset than
what I'm getting at is like, so
I think if you're an adult and you take that approach, like it could be different.
I got you. I guess what I'm saying is like, somebody would say, okay, it's me and you and this dude Joe, and Joe's always got Google Maps on his phone, right? But Joe can't read a fucking map,
Okay.
right? He can't read a map, but he knows exactly where he's going all the time, right? Because he's got his phone out in front of him. Guess what? His phone just died, and me and you don't have Google Maps on our phone, but you and I both know how to read a map.
But
So
you
we
don't
pull a
have the
paper
map in the
map.
car.
We pull a paper map out, and we know how to get there. Now, we might have taken a different route. It might have taken us an extra hour to get there, but we got there, right? Where Joe would have been lost. That's all I'm saying. Is like, one's a shortcut, and it's the right answer most of the time. Great, that works. But when you don't have it, you're screwed.
See, but this is still being my argument to that is I would say,
Dude.
that's great, but we live in a world where we're generally always going to have our phone, and I'm not going to waste my time learning how to read maps that I'm, for the most part, most likely never going to use. So I'm going to use Google Maps. So my brain is now has the ability to think about other things, solve bigger problems.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, but I think there's like a lot of nuance to that. But I think if that's a kid and they're like, hey, I figured out this, you're like, fuck, you're kind of like, you're pretty smart. You figured out the most efficient way to do this. I kind of want you to work for me because what am I doing wrong?
Because most of the time it'll work. Yeah, you're right.
And I think if you realize, shit, like this worked for a little while, it turns out ChatGPT is wrong a lot. Some people are going to go, now I'm going to figure out how to actually do it myself. Or then they're just like, it's going to catch up to you one way or the other. So it's a mindset, but it's not like a fix all to just, I don't know. Anyway.
I used to say that.
Trying to stick up for you, Katie.
Street smarts and book smarts. And I used to actually say that about Becky and David. There's like street smarts, you can figure it out. And then there's book smarts, you can get the answer out of the book, or you can try to figure it out, which is kind of the same thing as the GPS or the map.
Yeah, I think the sweet spot's at somewhere in the middle, like
yes,
to be able to exercise both when you need to exercise both. Like I just think it's interesting. Like you watch, it'd be interesting to see, like, if you were to do a study, kids who get the best grade. I'm going to make a hypothesis right now, which I was not founded. I think kids who get the best grades in schools don't do well in their jobs, because there's not a right answer at work.
Right.
There's not a right answer in the real world. Right? There's it's nuanced. And so they're being taught to be employees. And so they get out of college, they did really well in college, and they get into the workforce and they can't critically think.
But a lot of education isn't just a right and wrong answer. There is a lot of essays or critical thinking. There is a lot of critical thinking. And the education system, that's a whole nother that's a whole nother political issue, really. But sometimes doing well in school, you're not really great at working together as a team, or taking advice, or doing what you're told. You're just
Anyway,
well, I noticed that
Katie was out there flipping to the back of the book.
See, but yeah, like I admire the intelligence in that, and then I see that there's limitations, like if it becomes the be all fix all to everything. But I noticed when we were playing that game, what was that game we were playing?
Strategories.
Have you heard of this
Categories?
Categories. Yeah.
So I was realizing after, I'm like, oh, that's a weakness. I'm not, when I'm under the pressure to think about that.
It's like
stuff,
almost improvisation. Right?
Yeah. That's when I'm that's where it's the least advantageous for just the way my brain thinks.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that if somebody asked me to write a review, like if I had a really good experience, said, hey, can you write a review? And I sat there, I'd be like, what should I say? And I think about it too much. But if I walked up to you 10 minutes later and was like, dude, this place was awesome. I could tell you just like off the cuff the best review. But if you tried to force it out of me, it'd be terrible. And that's the experience I had of oh, you're trying to force this stuff out of me in a time restraint, and you're going to get the worst possible expression of me. But if you just let me speak, just let me be myself, you'll get and I don't know, that's just something I've noticed in myself. But I'd noticed it after that game. I'm like, oh, I did not like that. Which is great because it was a challenge and it was fun to play, and it was a funny game, and we had a lot of fun playing it. But I was thinking, man, I was
But he didn't want to play Family Feud yesterday.
I was tired and I had a podcast to upload. But thank you for the invite.
Yeah, for me with games, I never liked playing games. I mean, literally up until I would say very recently, people would want to play games. Friends would. I would never want to. That stemmed from when I was a kid, and so when I was a kid, I would play games that I'd never played before, and I wouldn't be good at them. Well, you wouldn't necessarily play 3, 4, 5 rounds. You play 1 or 2 rounds, and then you'd go and go do something else, right? Well, I never got good at it in 1 or 2 rounds, so I was terrible at these games. And so then I was associated with playing board games and whatnot, or card games with I don't want to do that. It's I'm not good at those. I'm just going to get picked on. I would also ask a lot of questions because I would what are the rules? I don't know the rules. I've never played. And so I noticed as become an adult, it takes me 3 to 4 rounds of playing a game before I get it. The first 3 rounds, I'm terrible, and I'm not fun to play with because I'm asking too many questions, kind of slowing the game down.
Mm-hmm.
What if we do that? And what if you do this? But I will say, round 4, watch the fuck out, okay? Because I'm coming for you.
It's only fun. It's only fun if you're winning in Kyle's house.
We didn't really play board games or anything, did we?
Not too much. I don't know. Not that I remember. I just realized, like, it's so funny. All you have to do is you have to find one word. It starts with one letter and answers this question.
Category?
Yeah. Trying so hard to think about it that I'm just like literally hurting.
It's like you're frozen. It's like you're frozen.
Like,
Yeah.
this is
It's like you're taking a test.
This is a great.
It should be so obvious, and your head just can't come up with it.
Yeah, I used to have test anxiety. That's what happened when I was a kid. I'd have test anxiety, and I couldn't. I was so nervous. I was like, I'm gonna make a mistake. I'm gonna make a mistake. Well, yeah, you're gonna make a mistake when that's all you're thinking about.
Well, I'm like looking, and I can't, and I'm like looking at the sky to the heavens for this answer. I'm like, my brain is literally there's nothing there. Like
This category heavens.
I know hundreds of words that start with that letter, and I cannot and I'm like, it's very funny to see the way your brain works in certain.
Because you're nervous. Because you're like, I have to figure this out. Oh my God, I'm like less human.
The only real
if I don't figure
nervous
this out.
was the time.
Yeah, and I don't think I would say that I'm not because they're my family, so it's not like
okay.
I don't give a shit. And it's just gonna be funny regardless. Like some of it was hilarious, just some of the answers and stuff. But putting my brain in that situation where it's like, do this now, and I'm like, hey, I stop being myself and I start I'm trying to.
Yeah.
It's a very funny experience.
There's this game called What's Behind the Green Door. You know this game? Okay. So, maybe I shouldn't give it away, but there's a game called What's Behind the Green Door, and I played this with my college soccer team. We played this every year, and so the fun thing was that we would take like 13 passenger vans to away games. So there's 13 dudes in one van, 13 dudes in another van, and so this game was being played on regular road trips, and so usually like one or two of the guys would know how to play the game, and then nobody else would know how to play, and you'd have to have to figure it out. Well, it took me like a season and a half. So an entire year, I say season, it's like it's a 90-day season basically. So for 90 days, I couldn't figure out this game. And then, I got it halfway through the next season or something like that. And it was so hilarious. Similar thing of like, the game is so simple.
Yeah.
But I was overthinking it. And it was just so funny, like how long it took me to get it. So I got made fun of a lot about that.
Yeah, it makes me think how many skills you could learn just by playing certain games because they put your brain in situations that it's not used to.
Yeah.
My family played a lot of games. They played bridge and
I don't know how to play bridge.
Just like all these weird card games.
You know how to play bridge? I don't know how to play bridge. I don't know how to play backgammon. I don't know how to play chess.
Backgammon.
These are games I need to
play
learn.
Backgammon?
I don't know. I don't think so.
But they're fun games. But I don't think we ever.
I would play a lot.
I think when I was with the kids, it was like go outside and play. Do something creative.
I'd play a lot of games with Connor when I was mentoring him. We had a lot of fun. We would play all kinds of board games. Some of them he'd beat me in, and some of them I'd just dominate him in. Yeah, take that. I'm a 30-year-old man. Just dominated.
How old was this kid?
12.
He hasn't made the podcast
maybe
yet.
10 at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway. I got another question I got to ask you. Oh, here it is. I don't even need to find it. Who, growing up, or now, or ever, who is someone you really admired, or someone who's a big role model for you?
Well, there've been lots. I think my parents were role models to me. My brothers and sisters, to a certain degree, because I didn't really grow up in the same house with them. They were sort of larger than life to me. Mrs. Gilbert, who was my nanny, my whatever, my everything really. But
So it was talk about her. What was she like?
she was from Ireland. She was basically hired by my parents to be in the house.
She's a housekeeper.
She was a housekeeper. Yeah, she would
And a
cook
nanny.
and clean and take care of me. I don't really know the history. There was a lot of history to the whole thing, but by the time I came along, she was more taking care of me than actually being a housekeeper, which I think sort of bugged my mother. But anyway, but she would, she lived with us, and she would take me to the park all the time. She would take me to the pool all the time. She walked the dogs.
Was your mom working?
No, my mom didn't work.
Okay.
Which is always seems unfair to say, right? Because I'm sure she thought she worked. But anyway, she did not. She was not employed.
Yeah.
Outside of the home. But she just, she was just always there.
What was her story? Was she married? She didn't have kids or anything?
She was an Irish immigrant. She was divorced. Her kids, she had 4 kids, 1 or 2 of whom lived like in Tuxedo. That's where we lived in the summer.
Oh, that's a place in Tuxedo?
Tuxedo Park, New York is a place.
Okay.
Her kids were there and her grandkids. So she would go there like weekends, whatnot. But I never knew her husband. So she would live with us in the city during the week, and then if we went to Tuxedo, or she would go to Tuxedo. And then eventually, I guess by the time I moved out, she moved down to Florida with her kids. One of her kids lived in Florida.
Did you ever stay in contact with her after you moved out?
I stayed in contact with her the whole time, yeah.
So how old were you when she passed away?
I was in college, so 20.
And what about your parents? What did they do that made them good role models, or what do you remember about them?
They were just, I thought my dad was the smartest. I thought everything out of his mouth was just genius.
While he was smoking a cigarette?
Yeah, exactly. While he was smoking a cigarette and gambling and drinking his martinis and all the rest of it. But, and my mom was because everybody else thought she was really cool. My friends all thought she was cool. I was like, wow, she must be really cool. I read a story the other day. I wish I was just thinking about it the whole time we've been doing this podcast. I don't know who it was, but they said their mother was one of the most influential people in their lives. She was nasty. She used to degrade him and belittle him and just be awful to him all the time. But somehow he just thought she was the greatest thing in his life. I don't know how that all worked out, but
I wonder what that was. Where did you read that?
I'll have to come up with where that was again. I have a feeling it was one of these politicians that recently. I mean, maybe it was Elon Musk. I don't know. Guys will have to do a podcast.
It sounds like J.D. Vance.
Could be.
That's honestly what it sounds like.
Could well be.
Yeah, because his mother was terrible and had addiction problems and a million different boyfriends that were in and out of his life, and
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. It was just the sort of always belittling.
Yeah, it sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like it's ringing bells to J.D.
And
Vance.
I always used to, I guess, feel a little guilty. I always felt like I would tell you guys that you could do better, and you all interpret it as, well, we're not good enough. And that wasn't what I meant. I always meant, you can always strive for more. But I would sort of.
I think that's the tricky thing with kids, though, is you never know how they interpret things. Their brains are so young and undeveloped that they might.
Or adults.
Yeah, but to an adult, you could say hey, this is what that somebody meant, and then you'd say okay, but you say it to a kid, and they're like, what are you talking about? I don't like.
The worst part about it is that half the time they're just mimicking us. They're just imitating us. They're imitating the adults, and we don't even see it. Like we're punishing them or doing something to them, and they're just mimicking our behavior. It's like,
Imagine the irony in that.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important to, or at least I have a focus to improve my communication. Because you think about how important it is. Is there anything that's more important in life than communication? I don't know that there is. Because if you can't communicate,
lots of ways of communicating, though.
That's what I'm saying. Just in general, like if you can't communicate, like, well, good luck.
I mean, just if you're completely silent, if you're driving down the road with somebody and you're completely silent, what are you communicating? That you don't want to talk, or that you're just comfortable without having to talk, or I mean, you could be.
Yeah, could be.
You could. Well, you must be so pissed at me that you can't even talk.
And they're just enjoying the drive,
or is it really awkward? It could be all kinds of things.
Yeah,
but
or your facial expression, or your body language. Person, right,
it's easy to know what they're talking about. Communicating.
Yeah.
For the record, I can't stand when people are talking just for the sake of talking and there's nothing to say. Like I'm totally fine in silence for 25 minutes. If there's nothing to say, just all's good. Great. And if we're having a great conversation, also great. Otherwise, and if there's nothing to talk about,
it's fine too.
Also great. Yeah. But I don't want to talk about like I feel like, wow, I'm really forcing this. Like this is
I have that trouble on the phone. I just can't talk on the phone for a long time. It's like now it's just
I gotta go.
I know. It's like yeah.
I have that problem when I'm trying to get off the phone and people are trying to talk. I'm like, all right, hey, look, I'm sorry, someone's calling me. I gotta go. That's usually what I say. Sorry, somebody's calling me right now.
Yeah.
But see, like that's the thing, like coming out here and being with the family and being with the grandkids and stuff like that. It's like you condense everything into 10 minutes. It's 10 days. It's like you're supposed to be talking the whole time and chatting and, doing stuff or just, like more, it's like, I hate to try to force stuff. I mean, you want to do stuff. You want to have meals, get together and play games and whatnot. But I feel like you constantly have to make the most of your 10 days.
But sometimes when people invite you over for dessert and Family Feud after you just had a long dinner, you just have to respectfully decline.
Right.
Even decline shooting.
Yeah, because I had work to do.
He gave me his gloves.
I gave you gloves. I had work to do, and I knew it was going to be cold out.
It was smart.
Yeah.
I'm just get grief for hours.
Where'd you guys go shoot?
Where we went.
Okay. Cool. Nice.
It was fun.
Yeah, and I even sent you to a place that saved you 30 to 40 minutes of driving each way. So I should be getting thanked over here. I sent you with gloves.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sent you with gloves. All right. So, I mean, but like, was there anything specific you were just saying what everyone else said, like that you remember about your mother or father that really made them, made you look up to them or admire them?
I mean, yeah. I mean, again, Mrs. Gilbert, there were, maybe a teacher along the way that was, but not really. And of course, Dad.
What did you admire about Dad?
Oh, everything. He was just everything. That sounds so cliche. I just, he was such a good farmer. He was just such a good farmer. And I was, again, so lucky to have somehow, gotten that job. And I'm probably said in the podcast, I remember calling my mother and saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep this job because, he's on another level. I don't know if I can get up to that level. He's just got, but he stuck.
You mean his work ethic?
His work ethic. He just was organized. He, there wasn't chaos. Everything was, it was a order. And it made sense. And it was, it wasn't, and I had to get up to that, I had to.
So how old do you think he was? How old was he when you met him?
I was 26. He was
40.
42.
So this is like in his, how old was he when his father got sick?
Oh,
He was a teenager.
18. Yeah.
So this is 24 years of like figuring out
Right.
with like God, like imagine what those years were like, how many times he like, why he figured out that he needed to be organized and have everything.
And he also was, I mean, I don't know why it took me so long to figure out, but, you don't cut the corners. You don't, you got to do the right thing. You got to make sure it's all done right at the end of the day. Not, you can't just. But he also had one of his big things was you never borrow money. You always, like, he needed to put an extension on the barn. And it took him something like 8 years to make the money that it was going to take to build it. And he always, just, you don't do stuff unless you have the money to do it. But as much as I would tell you, you would argue that point. You still do.
Yeah, I think that there's just more nuance to it, kind of like given the world that we're in now and the like competition of like the money you're competing with. It's like sometimes you don't even have a chance to get in the market if you don't have X amount of money. But I would love to. Maybe there is a business I could be in where I don't have to borrow any money and I can just do that. But like, unfortunately, that's not the business I'm in.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's a completely different world.
It's just when the entry point for a certain market to get in is X amount, and you like by the time I got to that, like with current inflation, it would be here. I'd like, would you ever get there? Would you ever get it? Anyway. So what did you?
But back in the days when you were doing the farm,
yeah,
you would want me to buy bigger equipment, and I would have to take loans out to buy the equipment. I'd be like, this isn't the way to do business, but I would do it.
It was interesting because we were talking about a lot of this yesterday with Dusty and like the way farms grew and you either had to grow or die was what Dusty was saying. But I was also saying to Dusty, which was something that people always had said, that the way Dad was with cows, like Peter Bailey would tell me this and Ted Briggs would tell me this, like that he always said the cows always have to come first. And that was what Dusty was saying makes a good rancher, is you always put your cows first.
Right.
And that was like, I don't know, you were just talking about that, so it made me think of that. So like, what about his personality did you admire? Because you were just, I mean, I guess that's part of his personality, but you were just saying his order and organization.
He was ordered. He was very devoted. He was devoted to his mother, his family, to Ike, to the cows. He had friends, like Dave Hammond, that, they were, they weren't just acquaintances. He was friends. He was always just gentle and kind and smart.
And
he was a good dad.
What do you got? Got any more questions, Kyle?
I mean,
don't make you cry now.
Don't make you cry?
Don't make you cry. You look like
cry?
You're going to cry.
No, I'm just like thinking. I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I'm thinking it's hard to make me cry. I wish I could cry more.
David said that.
What's that?
David just ran a marathon. I'm sure he told you about the marathon. And when he went past us at mile 24, whatever, he started crying. And there's a tear in his eye, and it was sweet. He said, "I hate to cry because I don't like crying."
I don't hate crying. Like, I usually the only time I'll cry is like tears of joy. Like, I'll be so happy and so excited about something, and then I'll feel my eyes well up. But yeah, like, so maybe that could make me cry. But I just don't. Like, I wish I did more. I'm like, sometimes I'm jealous when people are so emotional. Like, I'm sure it's a nightmare for them, but
it's like last night he said something to me about, I think she thanked me for dinner or something. I said, I would pay twice this to have my family together. It just chokes me up just to say, it's just having everybody together makes me so happy. It just, it's not like I'm going to. But anyway, those kinds of things make me cry. When the Mets win, I cry.
Did you know Dad's parents at all?
I knew his mom.
Okay. What do you remember about her?
Same thing. She used to come down to the barn every morning with toast, breaded, buttered toast. And then she found out I like bacon, so she started coming down with toast and bacon. But every day every morning she'd come to the barn, mostly just to feed the cats.
What, Bill didn't like bacon?
I'm sure he did, but he hadn't put in his request or something. I don't know what.
Okay.
But anyway, she was very sweet. And yeah, I mean, they were just very devoted. She was elderly and that she had heart problems. So I only knew her for years. She was. And the one thing that was amazing was my mother loved her. My mother met her because they were both at our wedding. And I just thought it was so funny because my mother was always sort of a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't high society, but it was just so funny that she just thought Dad's mom was
great.
A nice lady.
That makes sense, though. Because probably if you live in the city, there's probably something you really admire about people that live in the country and have a different type of life. Maybe there's something really admirable about it.
I don't know, I guess.
Okay, here's one for you. How long after you met Dad did you know you guys were going to get married?
Well, we got married within 2 years. So it probably wasn't too long. I don't know about actually getting married, but I just remember I was going to take the manure and spread the manure or something, and he made some comment to me about roses don't grow on something, and I thought he was talking about the manure. What are you even talking about? Anyway, he was trying to tell me that he liked me.
What did he say? Roses don't grow in what?
Roses don't grow in... I don't remember. But anyway, it took me a while to figure out the communication.
Yeah, there you go.
What do you remember about your wedding?
What I remember most is that it was like we decided to get married. Well, going to Puerto Rico was a big deal because on our honeymoon. But it was one of those things we just decided to get married, called a bunch of friends about 2 weeks later. And, my mother, who was not that type, she needed the engraved invitations, none of which was happening. Peter Bailey's wife, it was at a restaurant that she ran, so she kind of catered it.
What restaurant was that?
Well, it was called, what was it called at the time? Amenia. It was in Amenia. It burned down. It's Brookside. It's called Brookside.
Okay.
But it was fun. We had a band. We danced.
And was that the
How many people were there?
About 50, maybe.
Pretty good on 2 weeks' notice.
Yeah.
Did all your siblings make it?
All my siblings made it. Mrs. Gilbert was there.
Nice. Okay, so she was. So you said. So she was alive after college.
Okay. Yep, that's true. That's absolutely true. She was alive. That's absolutely true. She was alive. Yes.
Who was your maid of honor?
My friend Louise Molfeld from Southborough.
That was from college?
High school.
High school. Who was Dad's best man?
His best man was Roger Warrenberg.
Who's he?
So Roger Warrenberg was the son of a good friend of Phil's mom, Margaret Warrenberg, who was so much more like my mom than Dad's mom, and they were best friends. So the three of them, my mother and Margaret Warrenberg and Dad's mom, the three of them, I could just see them now sitting there. They were just like three little peas in a pod. But anyway, and that was the only wedding party. And my dog. My dog.
Alfie.
Alfie.
That's simple. That's a simple wedding party.
Yep.
Did he live around Millbrook, his best man?
His mom did. They lived in Amenia. They lived right up the road from what's the restaurant there?
Amenia Steakhouse?
Yeah.
Okay. Is any of his family still around there or anyone or no? I've never even heard that name. I'm surprised I haven't heard that name at all.
He used to work at Texaco, which was in Fishkill. And I think the Texaco station shut down, and I don't know where he went after that.
What about your maid of honor? Is she still around?
I just saw her at a reunion
Oh yeah.
last year. Yeah, she actually lives in California.
Okay.
But yeah, and then going to Puerto Rico, because I think it was, first time Dad was ever on a plane out of the country, traveling.
What did you think? Puerto Rico?
He enjoyed it. We had fun.
He was literally in the honeymoon phase.
He
He's
fancied.
like, I don't even know. Who cares?
Speaking of no GPS, we had rented a car and we were trying to go somewhere, and we just kept hitting this construction, and they were speaking Spanish, so he'd try to speak Spanish to them, and they'd tell him, and we just kept going round and round and round. Anyway, we finally got out of it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the wedding? So you just remember the honeymoon more than the wedding?
Well, no, we were married in a wedding. We were married in a church. The farmer that I worked for in Maryland walked me down the aisle.
Your dad had passed?
Yes.
So your mom was, so it was just your mom and Dad's mom was there.
Yes.
Good. And then all your siblings. And then EP was there. Yeah.
Yep. And a lot of my friends, a lot of the people, like the church, the people that were in the church, because we
now
went
hold
to
your mic a little closer.
We went to Smithfield Church at the time.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the people that were attendees of the church came. Yeah, and it was at Brookside, a nice lunch, dinner, whatever. I don't remember what time it was at. And then off we went.
Nice. Did you guys dance? Did Dad know how to dance at all?
Yeah, we danced.
Did he know how to dance?
We danced, yeah. We danced.
You got that from somewhere.
His mom and dad were big dancers.
Oh, really?
His dad was, they were big dancers.
This checks out.
Yep, we danced.
Fun.
And then we left from there to the airport.
Straight from the wedding to the airport.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Out of here. Puerto Rico.
Yeah. And I don't remember who we got to milk the cows, but we had somebody.
This wasn't Casey's dad, was it? Because remember you said like there was something.
No, that was from when Riley was born.
Yeah. Was that the first time Dad had left the cows?
Mm-hmm.
That probably stressed him out.
I don't know. He was pretty good. I don't remember who we had milking for us. I remember we had asked Harry Baldwin, who used to have cows,
mm-hmm.
but he didn't want to get back into it. Got somebody. I don't remember who, but
there was a lot more people milking cows than those at that time.
Right.
What year did you guys get married?
85.
What year were you born, Kyle?
87.
God. All right, that's all I got on my list of questions. Kyle, you got any questions? Those were great answers.
What do you you got any good plans for 2025? You got anything on the books? What do you want to do in 2025?
Going to Hilton Head next weekend.
I don't know what that is.
South Carolina.
Okay.
Beach.
Okay, cool.
That's still till 2024.
It's called
I know.
Hilton Head.
Hilton Head.
Okay, cool.
It's very upscale.
It's upscale. Okay.
I think it's a big golfing community.
Okay.
I don't play golf.
What are you going to do?
I don't play golf.
Okay.
I don't know, but Kevin said, let's go to Hilton Head. And I said, I'm ready.
All right. So you're just winging it.
Winging it.
You guys are just
because
driving.
In February, we're driving there. In February, we're going to spend a month in Hilton Head. We already have plans.
Okay. So you're just going to go check it out this time.
Yes.
Okay. So February, you're going back to Hilton Head.
February, we're going back to Hilton Head. I'll be back out here at some point in early summer, late spring, just because. Otherwise, I think I'm going to go to Idaho when Rich's brother gets married.
Oh, nice. That's
July 4th.
Cool.
That's sweaty.
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't keep track. I know the names. I just.
All right. What are you doing for fun these days?
Hanging out. I mean, we had a great summer. We went all through Maine and just, we'd go out places and meet people. And
you're in a camper or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have an Airstream.
Yeah, that's right.
So we would go out places and, people would say, oh, you're visiting, you should go see this place. And, oh, you're this close. You should just go a little further north. So we just kept going. And
You
then,
followed their advice.
yeah. We found some great places. I met up with this friend of mine from childhood, which was really fun. And then we went to Prince Edward Island because I love mussels. Then we went to Nova Scotia because I love salmon.
Cool.
Yeah. And it just, we just kept going because people kept saying, go there.
Good.
Which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, people are giving you good advice.
And I'm sure we'll do something similar. Who knows where? I want to go to London. London is on my radar.
What are you waiting for?
I guess just the right time of
That
year.
sounds like an excuse, Liz.
No, it's the time of year because we've got February, we've got Hilton Head. I've got friends that live there.
Well, so I mean, what are you hoping for in London? London has bad weather most of the year.
Well, that royal family I was talking about.
Okay.
I always kind of thought the Queen and all her little underlings were pretty cool.
Okay, so you want to go check that the royal palace and.
I just like all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You'd have a great time no matter what. I guess if you're like, even if the weather's not going to be good because it's not usually good in England, but it'd be an awesome trip.
Supposedly London's very walkable. The weather's sort of always bad, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But there's times when it's not as crowded as other times, which would probably be nicer.
Yeah, like right before school gets out or right after school gets put back in. Yeah,
that used to be one of the best things about homeschooling. We could always go like off season.
Yeah,
when everybody's in school. But my grandson calls me Gam Gam.
Okay,
because that's what Prince William and Harry used to call their grandmother, who was Queen Elizabeth.
Gam Gam.
Katie kept asking me, what do you want to be called? What do you want to be called? And then I found out that they used to call her Gam Gam. And I said, because I'm their queen.
So have you watched the whole like Netflix show?
No, I know.
Called The Queen or anything?
No.
Why not?
Because it's made up.
Okay.
I mean, even they say
I'm sure it's made up.
They say it's not real.
Yeah.
And I don't know
what, I
don't really know what is real. I just, when you see the Queen, she just has this air about her that's just like.
You're such a fangirl.
Queen Elizabeth.
I love it.
She's awesome. And
she's gone now.
She is.
She's gone.
But her and
she ruined my last trip to London.
Would she die on you?
She died. So I say I had a great trip, but
that funeral procession, you should have gone for the funeral procession. That looked amazing.
I was there. I was there at the time, if I remember correctly. So why she ruined my trip was I was getting on the plane and like it would have been like in Salt Lake or something or Denver, and she had just died. And so like I'm in Denver and they announced that she died. Well, they went into like 10 days of like mourning or whatever. The whole country, they shut everything down.
Oh boy.
Well, I had an English Premier League soccer game that I was going to that I spent $1,000 on. And I was going with some friends and so the game was canceled. All the games were canceled. Every single sporting event in the whole country was canceled for 10 days because the Queen died.
So did you
crazy.
leave Dallas?
Yes. No, I went and I had a great trip. Otherwise, I had other things on my schedule, but like that was just one of the things that got canceled. And so I got my money back, but it was a little challenging to get my money back because anyway, whatever. It was all good.
Well, I was working in Maryland at the time when Charles and Diana were married, that whole wedding thing. And I know the wife of where I was working was, watched the whole thing. I didn't really pay any attention to it. But when Princess Diana was killed in that car accident
in Paris,
it was just like, it was devastating. And I was like, why is this, why is it bothering
you
me so much? But she was just such a she was just such a wonderful, I mean, you know, and who knows what's going on in the background, obviously, like we talked about, but just her whole presence and the things she did and the kids and everything. And anyway, so I started, you know, watching the boys a little bit, and then they grew up, and that whole wedding, her funeral procession, and then Charles getting kinged. Yep. I got up.
You're gonna have a
I
great
got
time.
up out of bed for those things.
You're gonna have a great time. You should just schedule it. Don't wait. Schedule it. Put it on the
we
books.
are. It's on. It's definitely 2025.
All right. Cool.
But David keeps threatening to come. I think that'll have to be a separate trip.
David, you can't go.
And don't you have some baseball tickets for 2025?
Oh yeah.
I won't. She's only
How many
told me
times
about
have you
them a
heard this?
dozen times. She's like, "Did I tell you?"
What do you got?
They built a new AA Cubs affiliate baseball stadium. It's about 3 or 4 blocks from
Okay.
where we live. And Kevin bought like these luxury box seats for the season. It opens in 2025. So
Cool.
we'll be going to those.
You won't be
games.
drinking any beers, will you?
In 2025?
And watching
Is that
the
going to
game-
be a New
and
Year's?
watching the game.
Is that going to be a New Year's thing? When you're within walking distance, why not?
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. You can just walk home after.
Right.
Your property value is going to go up substantially.
It is.
Got a new baseball stadium within walking distance.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
you should, but maybe you should buy that other one from Justin and Tiffany.
Well, he's been threatening.
Where is it? Where is it again?
Knoxville.
Knoxville. Knoxville.
Threatening what?
Well, Kevin keeps saying he'll buy it. They don't
He
want to
sh-
sell it.
Well, he should. Yeah.
No, the
Seems
property
like a
value is
decent-
definitely.
What is it?
gone
Like an
up.
apartment?
It's a condo.
Condo? What do those go for in Knoxville?
Well, we bought ours for 180, and it's worth at least 4 now.
Okay, so now they're going for 400.
And there's Justin and Tiffany's is bigger, isn't it? What do you think theirs is
No,
worth?
theirs is smaller.
Oh,
Actually,
really?
yeah, because we have the loft,
Oh, yeah.
and theirs is only 1 bedroom. Ours
Hmm.
is 2 bedroom, 2 bath.
They do have the porch.
They do have the courtyard. I don't know. Theirs is worth at least that,
4. Yeah.
Yeah. but they're on the ground floor. We're on the 3rd floor, which is a little bit of issue. Anyway, so yeah, lots of travel,
Cool.
no obligations, not getting a job.
Nice.
We don't have to get political, but I think things are looking up.
That's what they say.
Personally,
We'll see what happens.
I think things are going to improve.
We'll see what happens.
That's why you want to buy now before everyone's buying. Just saying.
Well, everyone was buying. What year did Katie and Rich move here?
2020.
Oh yeah, the COVID thing.
Kyle, when did you bought in 2019, right?
Yep.
Genius.
No, I bought in 2020. Sorry. I moved here in 2019.
Yeah.
Well, we bought that in 2019.
Yeah, you were like, the deal had started before COVID, essentially, right? Or it was like happening, like you closed during COVID
I
pretty much?
closed the same week that COVID made it to the U.S. and things got shut
That's
down.
what we did.
But prices were already like skyrocketing the year before that here.
Well,
they, they went up $100,000 in the 9 months I was here before that. So yeah, they were moving up quickly.
Yeah, because I just kept hearing when I moved here in 2019, the median home price is $550,000. Now it goes to $1 million. So
I was looking at houses at like $350 in 2019, and yeah, I mean,
When Katie came
coulda,
here,
woulda, right?
whatever year she started MSU, there were bulldozers that looked like in about every empty lot.
Yeah,
yeah, that was like 2007 or 8
Yeah.
Oh, back then.
when she
Yeah.
came here for school,
Oh yeah, sure.
somewhere around then.
Yeah,
So they were building.
Yeah, because that probably would have been like 2009 is at least when I came to visit her here. She might have came out 2008. But I'm roughly guesstimating. All right. You want to wrap this thing up?
Let's wrap it up. Thanks, Liz.
Oh,
Thanks,
you're
Mom.
welcome. Thank you.